All right. Good afternoon. Welcome everybody to Elite 100. Great to see you guys. Still coming off that high or continuing the high from a couple of weeks ago in Nashville. Just absolutely awesome. And I can't help but visualize or think about what the next one's going to be like with with this family, where we're going and where we're growing and stuff. So hopefully you guys are still carrying that high and kicking butt and getting things done. Before we get going, who would love to read the mastermind principles? And I'd love to get somebody new and different. I can pull them up if you guys need. Mr.
I'll read them if you pull them up.
Oh, there we go. Corbin, do you need want me to pull them up?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks, brother. All right.
I release myself to the mastermind because I am strong when I have others to help me. I believe the combined intelligence of the mastermind creates a wisdom far beyond my own. I understand that I will more easily create positive results in my life when I am open to looking at myself, my problems and opportunities from another's point of view. I decide to release my desire totally and trust to the mastermind, and I am open to accepting new possibilities. I forgive myself for mistakes I have made. I also forgive others who have hurt me in the past, so I can move into the future with a clean slate. I ask the mastermind to hear what I really want, my goals, my dreams, and my desires. And I hear my mastermind partners supporting me in my fulfillment. I accept. I know, relax, and accept, believing that the working power of the mastermind will respond to my every need. I am grateful knowing this is so. Dedication and covenant. I now have a covenant in which it is agreed that the mastermind shall supply me with an abundance of all things necessary to live a success-filled and happy life. I dedicate myself to be of maximum service to the world and my fellow human beings, to live in a manner that will set the highest example for others to follow, and to remain an open channel of God's will. I go forth with a spirit of enthusiasm, excitement, and expectancy.
Awesome. Thanks for that, brother. Well read. Who has some wins they want to share? What do we got going for wins this week?
I got a win.
What do you got?
We got a letter of intent going with broker dealer to take out the Series A. It's going to be $20 million round for Orange Comet, which is great news for everybody that got in on the safe round, because that'll convert your shares at $6.40, which is a ridiculously low valuation. And but we got to get the paperwork in for everybody that's committed. So,
well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I actually wanted to give you a couple of minutes to bring everybody up to speed, because I know the window is close on that, and I'm moving forward, and I know some other people wanted to. Is there anything they need to know? Is there a deadline? Like,
yeah. So as soon as we've got about probably 3 weeks, but as soon as the Series A officially hits the street, we can't take on the safe.
I got you.
And so so that's the timeline. That could maybe stretch to 30 days. But I've got to get the most important thing is the agreement signed. And it's a simple DocuSign agreement. And I've talked to pretty much everybody, and we're just in that process of taking action and completing paperwork. So
cool. Awesome. Does anybody have any questions on that before we move forward with other wins? Like I said, I know there's a tight window, so I want to make sure everybody has what they need. Everybody good? All right. Matt, you had your hand up for a win. What do you got?
Yeah, and I have food in my mouth. I apologize.
No worries.
I have so many wins. I want to start the win off as far as being here today with you guys. It just lights me up to see everyone and just, loving the connections that we have. One of my level of awareness just keeps increasing. My spirit keeps growing. I am in such a great vibration. A huge win. Jan and I, our relationship keeps growing, making deeper connections. And we were out in Seattle doing some energy healing, and we had sent that message out that we had gone hiking with Dave. We did another hike with Dave a couple of days later. We hiked up to this waterfall and just feeling the power of the water coming down over us. Like, it was absolutely incredible. And we just made such a deeper connection with him, and it was just so great. So I could be here for hours talking about how great things are, but I'm gonna, a big thing that's changed for me as of months ago was really living in gratitude all the time.
Mm.
And that has really changed so much the direction in my life of just starting to, creating that paradigm that as soon as I wake up, if a thought comes in, it's like, get that thought out of the way. This is time to give gratitude and really start the day off in the right vibration.
Man, I love that. It's so funny because can you imagine, a year ago or so, like you saying, I went and did some energy healing work this weekend. You were probably the most left brain person I know besides myself when we met. And to hear you say that is just amazing. So awesome, bro. I love it. I noticed that Ivan and Dan and Peggy connected in Utah. That was cool. I love to see you guys doing that, traveling around the world, connecting with each other. It's just absolutely awesome. I love that you share it with us too. So
no, it's not, Brian, it's not only that, is that I actually arrived to Utah, and then I called Dan and so on, and he invited me to go to a branch on Sunday. And then he told me, where are you staying? Oh, I am staying here. So basically he says, oh, that's literally like 3 houses on the side of my house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's got an Airbnb in the same complex that Peggy and I live. He's just down three doors down the way.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Like right now, if I walk like 2 minutes, I will give a hug to Dan.
We will connect again this week. It's great. That was my win for the week too, was to spend time with Ivan and Bella.
Awesome.
It was fun.
Yeah, we're going to be shooting down in a month or so to go see those guys. We're going to go stay with them and check everything out for Puerto Rico. So looking forward to that. So awesome. Great wins. Love to see it. Love to see it, guys. Also, thank you. Some of you immediately put some names in the hat for future potential Elite 100 members. And Chris Patterson connected me with this young gentleman who I'm hoping comes in. His name's Matt Onofrio. Kid's 31 years old. He's already 160 million net worth, massive commercial real estate guy, super, super unconscious competent. And just would be a huge asset for us. Like, we don't have like that expert in the commercial, high end. He buys and sells Walmarts and banks and huge things. So I'm looking to woo him in. And that was a connection from Chris Patterson, and Eric Markarian connected me with another guy who I actually know from a long time ago, another senior level entrepreneur, has ATMs like all over the place, probably a dozen different revenue streams. So thank you for those. And guys, continue to think about that, right? As we grow towards the second half of the year, the next retreat, when you come across people that you think could bring some value, either new vertical, new mindset, new something, just connect them with me. We'll have a chat. So the big surprise anyway, next week is, and some of you may know her, some of you may not, Peggy McCall is going to come on. She is a professional author coach. She's trained some of the best in the world. She helped, was it Bruce Lipton? No, was it Bruce Lipton? No. Wayne Dyer. She helped Wayne Dyer write some books. She's got a whole, like 18 books, 13 of them New York Times bestsellers. So for those of you that are looking to write books, or if you have books and you're looking to monetize them globally with multiple revenue streams, she's going to come on and present and teach on the power of writing a book, what you can do with them, all the different things she's done, and just general Q&A. So make sure you get questions. She might have been working with Bob longer than Phil. Her and Bob were like they were like really, really close friends for I think like 35 years. So they were.
I think it was.
What's that?
I think I think she's worked with him for 40 years since she was 20.
It's very long. She came as him as a student. She was broken, and she'll probably tell her story, use the content. Now she's arguably one of the best author coaches in the world. She's sought after by a lot of people. So we're going to bring her on and chit chat with her. So bring your questions there. That should be very interesting and cool. What else we got? I think. Oh, Erica and Chris, you guys are next in line, either individually or together for a hot seat. Do you want to do that the week after Peggy? Sure. Is that enough time to? I know you got some things you want to present. So is that good? Nope, no pressure. If you want to put it off, I just need to know for scheduling.
What date is that?
Not next Tuesday, but the following.
Yeah.
So it could be
Can we do the
either
week
one.
after that?
What's that?
Can we do the week after that?
Sure.
Because
That's our staff, our office meeting on the 9th.
they've been planned out all year and we have
Okay.
guests coming and everything. I usually make these meetings on that Tuesday, one Tuesday a month, but she can't make it. So
Do you want to do the 16th?
that works.
Okay.
And then real quick, I'm gonna tell one win real quick, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, no worries.
So we got both our daughters set up to attend Madison's webinar thing she's doing right now. It's like an 11-day webinar, and they're 17 and 21. So it might have taken us 40 or 50 years or so to reach awareness, but we're trying our best to get them started off young. And you know, it's going to be a work in progress, because it's a whole new level for a 17 and a 21-year-old to kind of tackle when they've never been exposed to it. So we're excited about that.
Well, I can't think of anybody in the world that I would rather recommend them to. And it's not because she's my daughter, it's because of her focus. And she also literally went through it not that long ago, 18, 19, I think around 19 is when she got into the content. We started working together. The rest is history. But there's actually quite a few people from here in our inner circle who their kids, their young daughters are working with Maddie. But then also the thing that really blew me away is Peggy, I think you're working with her. I know Katie either is or wants to. So she works with, very successful women as well, entrepreneurs. So
She also works with old men like me.
Oh, do you guys work together too?
And she's awesome. She's really helping me a lot.
No, I love it. Yeah, she's a different point of view, guys. We all have different points of view, right? We can all help each other. So I absolutely love that. Awesome. Well, I wanted to spend today in content. We touched on it at the event, and I know a lot of you really like we dig deep into content. So I am going to flip the screen over to, let's see. Let me just pull that up. Bear with me for a second. And if you guys want to pull out there you go, your own books, you can, whatever works. There we go. And we'll pick up kind of where we left off here. This next chapter too gets pretty deep. So I definitely want to mastermind. And again, just either raise your hand or just speak out loud and stop whoever's reading. If you have a comment or you want to dig a little deeper on something. So I'll kind of reread this part, because this to me was like, holy shit, this is the holy grail of understanding. When I finally understood at a deep level that it's consciousness that moves energy into form, and we have consciousness, everything kind of changed. And it says here, and again, full disclaimer, this is just my opinion based on study. There's books to study, books to ponder. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm not saying the books are right or wrong. It's just for us to ponder and come at it from different angles and just be open, right? So it says matter and energy are the same thing in two different shapes. Here is unity, here is cause, here is the natural world in which we live, and here too is evidence of the supernatural world in which we find our being. Since we believe that we receive the things that we seek on this plane to the degree that we accept the power and presence of God, that is on the level of our acceptance of oneness with him. What does that mean to you guys? Does that stir anything? What does that mean to you guys? Our oneness with him.
Brian, when I think of that, it basically, God, as far as oneness with him, is the fact that God is God, energy, whatever you want to say, is all around us, and it's really inside of us. And that when we can accept the fact that God is inside of us, and really to a deeper, or what could be perceived as a deeper thought, in the fact that we are all one. We all came from that same, I was reading the Science Again and Rich over the weekend, and so that they talk about the stuff. We all come from that same stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that's pulling me right now is the concept that we are all a direct reflection of each other. And what's really important is that when we have that level of awareness that what is being spoken to us in conversation, there's so many messages that are there because of the oneness that we have with each other, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. And one of the things when I study this too, we talk about coming from the stuff. Let me suggest this point of view. We are the stuff, right? When we say something like we come from the stuff, it implies division. Like the stuff, I came from this and now I am here, separate from the stuff. But when I look at this, is like, if we're one, we are the stuff, right? If it's consciousness that moves energy into form, then we are energy that God moved into form as a subset of himself. And I say him, loosely speaking, as whatever the entity, the universal consciousness. And that's what I've been really pondering lately, because it's a challenge when we're in our human consciousness to really get that we are all part of one entity. At least it's a challenge for me still, because we see our hands, right? And we see our world, and we get into day to day, and we're doing transactional stuff, physical transactional stuff. But to really go back and say, wait a minute, we not only do we come from the stuff, we are the stuff. Like we are God. At least that's how I the stuff I've been playing with lately.
Well, I'll tell you, Brian, I'm going to share a story which was pretty interesting. My niece had gone through some is still going through some mental health challenges. And when we can label it whatever we want to. However, she has been checked into a couple mental health facilities, and as far as her connection with spirit, like she was flying high. And what was amazing for us, she's in the hospital looking to connect with all these people and looking to help all these people, and starts making these statements of like, I am God. So think about the perception of the medical field in a mental health facility as she's standing there saying, yes, I am God. And it was an interesting process for us to support her through that, because she is correct. And then also to help her understand that the audience that she was talking to absolutely will take this, that she is in some type of a mental health crisis, believing that she is part of Christ.
Isn't that interesting? Right? They don't know that how right she is. That's so crazy. And I find some people have conflict with that, especially people that are very heavily religious. And it's not that we're sitting here saying we are the source, we are part of source, is how I look at it. We are all part of that. My human consciousness did not create the stars, the suns, the planets, but the same source that created what I'm experiencing, is how I look at it anyway. And what we're understanding and growing with here is that we have the ability to tap into that, pull from it, and create whatever we want. The only thing that limits us is our human conscious paradigms. But yeah, that's wow. Thank God she has you guys to bring some sanity to the room. That's amazing. Who wants to take over here? Prayer is not only worship. Yun?
Prayer is not only worship, it is also an invisible emanation of one's worshiping spirit, the most powerful form of energy that one can generate. The equation of the scientist says the essence of matter is transmutatable into energy and vice versa.
One of the things I like there is that now we're coming at it from the scientific point of view, right? A lot of this book is from the theologian point of view, but this is what's cool about the book is they come at it from both things, right? The equation of the scientist says that the essence of matter is energy.
One of the things that I wanted to bring up when Matt was talking was that now science is here to actually prove, like you can actually look it up and see that, the universal grid, the grid universal cells that exist in us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So more and more of this information is coming out. And so I'm just so grateful, so grateful.
We're at the leading edge, right? Those of us here who study at a very high level, we're kind of at the tip of the sword towards that.
The logical steps in the mastery of any science are these. First, discover the underlying principle. Learn what it is. Second, discover how it works, the modus operandi. Third, make use of it in the way it works. Cooperate with it. It's amazing as you study this and increase our levels of awareness, how everything is all order, right? There's nothing on this earth that's been ever created or destroyed. It's just in the order that we can actually perceive and understand things. And what I truly believe to be one of the most amazing experiences not just in order, but the levels of order of understanding, right? Like, and that's why we study the same thing over and over and over again, because everything has so many deeper levels of understanding. And I go back with you, Brian, and what Bob Proctor talks about is we're just tapping on the surface, right? Tapping on the surface of what our human potential capabilities are, right? And what I love, on a side note, is coming back, and we haven't been with our girls, on and off for like about 2 weeks, watching their interpretation of all this and understanding how powerful infinite beings that they are. So I just, again, love the fact that Kate's daughters are studying with Maddie, and there's all of this ripple effect happening, because really, like, think about that. When you have little kids that are growing up and that find out that they're infinite potential and that they can create whatever world that they want to live in. Luke, I see you shaking your head. You and Crystal, your child, like, right? Like, I can see and feel it, right? Like, it's incredible, incredible. So
yeah, they're gonna have a super baby for sure. I remember having a conversation with Bob about this, when it talks about the logical steps in the mastery of science, right? Discover the underlying principles. So we have all these universal laws like transmutation of energy, law of vibration, law of rhythms, law of gestation, law of gender. And these, Bob, you say these are not man-made laws, so man cannot change them. So, but they are physical laws. They are what impacts on the physical realm. And I remember I only called Bob twice in our entire time together to ponder deeper in content. And I said, so Bob, those are God-made laws, which apply to the physical world. I said, so if we're transcending toward God's consciousness and we're in that mode, those laws, in my opinion, they wouldn't apply. Would you agree? And he said, yes. Right? Those are not spiritual laws. Those are physical, a transmutation of energy, vibration, rhythms. Those are all what create, the stars, the suns, the planets, the physical expressions of energy, including us. So in the physical realm, when we're creating, like Ivan, a 200-year plan to manifest and change the globe, those are all physical things. So in that realm, we're looking to impact. This is where we must be in harmony with the laws. But when we're in spirit, there are no laws. Exactly. At least that's how I see it. And I think that's how Bob saw it too.
And to be able to not even just, but the whole idea of the spiritual, intellect, and physical, right? The 3 planes that we live on, and to have a full understanding on how to use that knowledge as a tool, right? So, just again, like, those laws are not abide in spiritual form, yet they are in the human physical form and the intellect, and really understanding how that works and how you can actually focus on one to elevate the other, vice versa, right? Like, it's very, very, very powerful.
So I like this next sentence, right? It says, find out what God is, discover his laws, and live by them. So let's take transmutation of energy, right? Most people in this planet, probably a high 90-something% of them, are looking at results to cause their thinking, which would not be living with the law, right? That one simple thing, I could look at all 7 laws and just go boom, boom, boom. If you look at what the masters are doing, they're not living by the laws, even though they may say they have faith and they may be very religious, and it's not a judgment, it's an awareness thing. But before this group and what we're doing here, I was completely ignorant. I'm still largely ignorant about almost everything, but we're starting to scratch the surface in some of this stuff, and we're starting to share that message. Who wants to take over on what is God?
I can.
I'll read.
Oh, go ahead. I'll do the next one.
Go ahead, Ian, and then Erica. Yeah, cool. And like I said, just stop if anybody wants to chat about anything.
God is the creative principle, mind, symbolized in the scriptures as the Father. He is the embodiment of all law, substance, intelligence, love, and power. He not only contains all things within himself, but knows nothing outside of himself. I'm going to stop there, because knowing nothing outside of yourself means that, that's an impactful statement, because that means that you have all the power, knowledge, and oneness in yourself, and that's all you need.
So I've talked to people from both ends of the spectrum on this one, and there used to be a lot of disagreements between science and theology, but one commonality is that whatever that entity is, either God or the universe, it's infinite. I've never found anybody to not believe that whatever that is infinite. So then from a mathematical point of view, you can't divide infinity. That's just a basic mathematical statement. There's no two infinities, right? Unless we start talking about alternate universe or something, which we can talk about. But if you think about that, if we believe that God is infinite or the universe is infinite and you can't divide it, by the very definition of that, we are a part of it. We're not a subset of it. We're not a second part of infinity. We are inclusive in that. And I think that's when he says that he not only contains all things within himself, but knows nothing outside himself. Ara?
Well, I just want to think a little bit outside the box.
Sure.
He knows nothing outside of himself, meaning he is everything. He's infinite, as you just said. But that also encompasses the evil spirits, like the devil or whatever, all those negative, all those evil spirits. I understand that they were part of him first, and then they were thrown out. So are they still part of him?
So my understanding is anything evil, evil spirits, even the concept of the devil is an illusion made up in the minds of man, fear tactics over time centuries of religions from the past.
But the Old Testament states it very well, though.
Yeah, like I said, it's just my interpretation and my awareness based on what I've studied, and I'm not super in-depth studied on ancient religious history. But if I did read the book Outwitting the Devil, and it's an interesting point of view, and it talks about the devil's an illusion. It's only in man consciousness. It's not a godly thing. And it's an interesting point to ponder if you guys haven't read or listened to that book. Napoleon Hill wrote it. It was so controversial that he died in 1970. They still never released it because of the fear of what that would bring upon the family. And I think they released it finally in 2005. So yeah, you bring up a whole nother deeper subject. I'm curious as to what you guys all think about that the concept of evil. You know, I'm always suggesting to you guys, there's no such thing as good or bad. There's just conscious awareness and relativity. But
my view on that is that we humans have been created with the ability to make choices.
Mm-hmm.
We're unique in that aspect. So we may choose fear, but our ability to create demands that we have the ability to make choices. And if you choose fear, that's often interpreted as the devil or evil, or so we're here to make choices. And we have that unique power, and that's where I believe that comes from.
Well, you said something really interesting there, because the choosing fear, we label that as evil. We label things as evil, but are they evil, right? It's right. According to society, according to centuries of past programming society, there's things that are evil and things that are good. But it's the same thing as relativity. There's no such thing as big or small.
Isn't it just fear and love? It's just another label you put on it.
Right.
Evil, bad,
Yeah. I knew this was going to stir the pot. Go ahead, Jan.
Sorry. Yeah, I said that there's so much, right? And truth be told, just like Brian was talking about, I totally agree. It's all the labels that we put on it. But if you think about balance and how it has to exist, right, for us to even know what is, right, that's where I truly believe that everything does have good, right? And it's your choice, going back to Dan, it's your choice on how you perceive it and what your perception of things are, because law of polarity also teaches us, right? Like, we don't know what great is without having the other side of it, right? And again, going back to this one sentence where he not only contains all things within himself, but knows nothing outside himself, because our entire physical existence is literally a physical representation of our underlying belief system. So if it's not inside of us, if it's not, then we don't even have the ability to have our sensory factors even interpret what is, right? And so how many of us have been where you experience something one way, and then as you increase your level of awareness, the experience is completely different, right? Because down here, you weren't able to see, smell, taste, or touch in that area because it wasn't inside of you already. And then you want to talk about like the transmutation of energy and thought and imagination. So as humankind, right, as we evolve, imagine it, if we can see it, it can be, right? If we can see it, it can be. So whether you're on the side of the other, amazing emotions of joy, love, and enlightenment, all of those creations, now the imagination opens up. And that's where I go back to, like, can you imagine what us humans are capable of creating in physical reality of all the things that humans can enjoy to feel more of those emotions? Now, on the vice versa, same thing is happening, right? Those living in fear, worries, and doubts, their imagination is growing deeper down.
Mm.
But truth be told, this shows all the time, light always wins, right? Love always prevails. So yeah, very, very, very powerful, but it's so true. Everything is inside of us, everything, and only that way.
Corbin?
I just, this piece, kind of gets into, religious belief a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think that it's interesting how he wrote this, that, he's trying to, tell you what God is and say that scriptures, refer to God as the Father. And then he talks about Christ. But depending on what scripture you're reading, God and Christ are either one and the same, or they're two distinct individual beings. And so, God of the Old Testament is Jesus Christ. God, the Father of the New Testament scripture, is ultimately Christ's Father as he prays to the Father, right?
Mm.
And they don't delineate this in this section here. But, regardless of whether or not you're of the Christian faith, the energy and Christ's manifestation of that energy and movement of that energy remains the same. The energy is it is the law, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting that they didn't really delineate between the two.
Well, it is, and when you talk about scripture, I mean, the whole point of scripture is to get people to think. That's why it's parables and stories and things. When they say the Father, they're not talking about Dad, right? It's meant to make us think. And my understanding of what Christ is because it's referred to as Christ consciousness, and my understanding of that is when a human being becomes aware and ascends the journey from where we are moving towards God consciousness, they're labeled as being in Christ consciousness. So Jesus Christ was a man that became aware and ascended to God in his studies. And I forget what there's a couple of books that have gone towards that, explaining what Christ is. And it's not the last name of somebody. It's a level of awareness. It's somebody ascending and on the journey of moving towards source and discovering what God is. And then there's other things I read that said human beings can never possibly contemplate what God is. We can't describe it.
We're not
capable.
We're not using enough of our brain in order to truly understand.
Mm-hmm. So that's super. I knew this was going to be good, Greg.
One of the things that I was thinking about, guys, is, watching our language about scratching the surface. I think one of the things that I'm aware of is that, because creation is finished, we're simply calling into existence that of which has already been created for us. And so therefore, we can live at peace and knowing that like everything is there. And so, we are born from heaven, we return to heaven. And so like this God within us is a very real thing. And that's very powerful to like, if you understand that and grasp that, that's like, you've got it. And I just know that, I don't think we're scratching the surface, Brian. I think we have everything we need.
Mm-hmm.
And we can be content with that. And I think that's something that, I take great solace in, knowing that, that connection with God is it's right there. It's always there.
Well, that's where individual consciousness comes into play in your individual belief system. So if you believe that to be true, then it's true for you.
Yeah.
When we say that we're born from heaven, we go back to heaven, we could easily just say, in other words, we're born from energy, we go back to energy. It's saying the same thing, different lens. But yeah, no. So I always bring it up because Bob studied every single day for 63 years straight. And he said he was just scratching the surface of understanding God and God consciousness. Doesn't mean he's right or wrong. That was just his opinion based on his belief system. But it's just interesting to ponder, right? And it just, to me, that jazzes me up. And it jazzed him up all the way till he moved back to source. Studied every single day all the way because he just couldn't get enough of it, right? He just became more aware, more aware, more aware. And he was able to help more and more and more people. And I think that was the juice for him.
Brian, you had us read the Game of Life and How to Play It.
Mm-hmm.
In that book, I really felt like there was a lot of references to what you were talking about the devil, the devil, and how it's very interesting. So if you haven't read the Game of Life and How to Play It, anyone here, I would recommend that you read it. It's a very easy read, but in that book, it made me feel like all of our insecurities, that is truly the devil. Like those things, those thoughts, those energy patterns are actually the devil versus a, entity, a separate entity from us.
Yeah, that's a really good book. We'll probably grab that one at some time. I know we did a little bit on that. In Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill talks about, going to hell is a myth. Hell is a state of mind that people are living right here and now on earth. They're convinced that they're going to go somewhere. But anybody that commits a robbery, a murder, something what we label as evil, they're living in a hell of a state, as Bob would put it. Now they're in hell now. What the concept of what hell is. In that book, he talks. It's not some place you go. It's a state of mind. Same with heaven. We live in a heavenly state. We're expressing physically right now, but we can learn to live in a heavenly state, which we had before and we'll have again. But we can live that now, and that's. I always tell people I'm living in a heavenly state, which to me is the wheel of life. That's again my opinion based on studies. It doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. It's just how I look at it. So heaven is not some place I'm going. It's what I'm experiencing right here and now. I wake up this morning, I look at my unicorn, and I'm in a heavenly state. I get to go to the gym. I get to use my legs. I get to impact people. I get to meet you guys. Like I can't even believe sometimes I got to pinch myself. And many of you here too, the same thing, your quality of life right now, where it's going, and the fact that can just get better and better and better. To me, that's living in a heavenly state. Chris? Or Erica, whichever one you raised your hand.
No, man, it's been a while since I raised my hand. I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. But I guess going back to the devil, I've done a lot of religious studies and ancient religion and prior religions besides Christianity and the Old Testament, but the devil concept really wasn't mentioned much at all, especially in the Old Testament. It was actually a character called the Satan, which gets translated to Satan later, but he was actually a right-hand man of God for a long time, and went down and did, deeds and tasks and different things that God wanted done. And then over time, it gradually evolved into using this character to represent, because people couldn't understand why bad things happen from a loving God. And these horrible things happen to kids and loved ones and natural disasters and all the things. So they had to find a way to balance that. And they couldn't understand how this God, they represented this loving God, all loving, all good, all powerful, could let these things happen. So they had to create a kind of like a counter character, an adversary. And so that's kind of how that evolved over time. And really the concept of hell is really hardly even mentioned in either the Old Testament or New Testament. It's just barely even referenced. And we've just turned it into a lot of things. People tend to do that. We kind of create what we want out of it and make it what makes sense to us. And it's just evolved over time. And then with the Christ concept, many other religions were written before Christianity and even the Old Testament, and many of them had dying, rising gods of different types, and they all represented kind of the same thing: a rebirth, an exiting of the old self and a rising of the new self, reaching that new conscious level of awareness that you couldn't reach before. And it's allegory, myth, metaphor, symbolism, but that's to me what all that means. And I think it's real powerful. Actually, to me, it's more powerful when you look at it that way, because the literal way that, you know, a lot of really strong religious people look at it, I really don't think does enough justice for it. It's actually more powerful the other way. So this is my 2 cents.
No, I'm 100% in agreement. The more we study something, the more it changes too. Like I know people that study the Bible every single day. They've been doing it for decades, and it doesn't mean at all what they used to think it means, because it's all buried in Scripture. There's meaning behind the words, and then we start to study different sections of it and dig deeper. And we always have to remember, at least I like to remember, anything we're ever going to read was written by another human being or series of human beings over time, and a lot of things are translated over centuries and languages, and we can't say 3 words here and translate it to each other successfully. So that's what really makes me separate written religion versus the study of spirit.
One of my favorite quotes to kind of unite people a little bit is, there's no one single religion that's true, but there's truth in all religions. There's some truth in all religions. So it doesn't matter what religion is, you can dive in and find the truth that's hidden in there in scriptures or stories or the myth building that they used to do back then. But I think that's pretty powerful too, is religion has caused so much dissension and division over the years. And if you can look at it like it's all really the same thing, we're just looking at it from different angles, and people lump too much stuff on top of it and try to create some literal world that really wasn't intended for in the first place.
I think I was talking to Young the other day, somebody on a one-on-one, and I said, you know, religious wars wouldn't exist if they were steeped in spirit. War is not an expression of pure spirit. That doesn't even make sense when you say it out loud, does it? But yet there's been wars over centuries. I mean, really like bloodbaths, like what we would call true evil in the name of religion, right? So we always, to me, it just causes me to ponder and reflect. And the only thing that really matters, guys, is what you each individually believe and hold is true. That's all that really matters. You're the center of the universe, not me. I'm just an extra in your movies. That's what we all are to each other. And that's why I love the fact that we can just openly talk about this stuff and there's no egos. It's just, I love coming at it and catching everybody's points of view. So Luke and then Ara.
So it's very interesting. I love this conversation as well, because it's all different perspectives. And like for me, you know, and I was part, my heritage, if you will, is Native American, Indian, right? So I always look at this. I've never gone through the Bible. I go to church. I believe in a higher power, source, God. But when it comes to the Bible, and there's 2 points that I'm going to make. One is the Bible was written by, you know, a few handful of people, so to speak, right? But that was their interpretation of what universe, God, source was teaching them. And so they wrote it. So that's point one. Point two is over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, things were pulled out by the Vatican, right? Things were destroyed / reinvented and put into there. And then on the flip side of that, you have like the Chinese, right? Then you have people in the Native Americans that had no earthly idea who Jesus was, the Aztecs, the Blackfoot, and everything like that. And then you have what I believe is like, I'm an alien, right? So like I came to this world, to the earth, right? To figure out my purpose on this earth, but I'm not from this world. I'm from a galaxy called Starseed, you know, universe, whereas, you know, it sounds crazy. It might sound crazy too. Oh, Siri's up talking to me. So it's all these different components to it. It goes back down to what you believe, what you have confidence in when it comes to what you choose. You know, like I said, like I'm not Christian, but I go to church. I believe in a higher power. I love how there's different angles, and ultimately, you know, there's so much that you can learn. And it goes back to this excerpt right in here. It's all the answers are within us. And one thing I've learned is what's liberating is that we don't need to like know what the world thinks of something. It's what we think of. And in turn, that's where we find our answers within.
Well said, brother. That's the biggest point I want to make here. It really matters what you guys individually believe for yourselves and your family and what you hold true. Ara?
Okay, so I thought Luke was from Miami, but I guess. But anyway.
He's from Uranus.
That's where I live.
I agree with most everybody. My only caveat to this whole conversation is, but I know this can go on for months without stopping, or years. That both the Old Testament and the New Testament were written by men, of course, or humans, let's call it for a second. However, with the guidance of the Holy Spirit, and without the Holy Spirit's guidance, these were just simply words. So if we believe in that concept, then you have the break of understanding or identifying or agreeing with the concept of the devil, what Dan said and everybody else said. So there's still a disconnect there of how to justify the devil or the evil powers.
Well, that's a great point of view. I don't believe in the devil. I don't believe in anything evil. I don't put energy towards it. I just don't believe in it. And by what you're saying there, right? These group of people over time were moved by spirit to create the Bible. Well, so is this book. This book is the very same thing through another human, right? It's just in modern times. So a book is a book is a book. The only thing that's separating it is time and belief systems. And I'm not saying right or wrong, but I don't believe in the concept of the devil at all. And that's just my point of view. But I'm not studied enough to articulate intelligently about what you're talking about, because I haven't studied that period of time. Maybe somebody else here has an opinion or interjection on that.
Brian?
Yes, sir.
So I believe what you are saying is that if you look at the society as a whole, everything that we have tried to name as evil is everything that we experience or observe as negativity. And if you go back in the times of history of society, it is all that negativity, it has been created by the humanity itself on trying to kind of show off with the things that we have, that some of the humans have experienced as negativity. So most of people is there with a lot of pressures that do not know how to handle the pressures of life, so react negatively and affect other people, other humans. And then it goes into a vicious circle, not virtuous circle, but vicious. Vicious, is that English correct?
Yeah, vicious circle, yeah.
Yeah, vicious circle of then that person unconsciously or consciously treat other person the same way that he was treated. So for example, a dad come from with a lot of pressure, right, from job, and he was like very bad treated from the boss, and then he goes and he really treat bad to the son, and then the son is 5 years old and the son was playing with the toys in the whatever, and then it, let's say it's scratch with the pencil in the wall, and then the son comes with all that, the father comes with all that furious, and then just hit with his leg, hit like, right? Hit the child. So now the child will be living his entire life with that internal unconscious or conscious information in his mind or sentiment, and he will not be expressing positivity to the world because he has this thing based on the bad experience. So this vicious circle goes on and on and on and on in society because of the ability mostly of some humans to be able to communicate and observe positivity around and be calm and listen and position themselves in that position of others, right? Where the others stand, similar to what you say in the mastermind principles, like others' viewpoint and so on. And if you see here what it says in what is Christ, you see there that says the Christ mind is aware in two directions.
Yes.
Is aware in two directions. For it is conscious of both God which is all of the good things of life, all the positiveness of life, all the things that we want us to grow, like treating well to others, like hope, like positiveness, like greatness, all the good things, right? Love, intelligence, etc. And then he's also aware of man. So he's aware of the progress of man. So he's not saying, oh, these things doesn't exist in the world. He's aware of the things that exist in the world that are not good and the progress of man. So because he's aware, he's trying and working towards doing something about it. Because if you are aware of a problem and you don't do something about it, then, you know, it's like you become part of that vicious circle, because you say, oh, no, all the problems of man are not for me, you know, like.
Well, that explains what you're doing and why. And you touched on something that I want everybody to see too, because I believe everybody here is in a state of Christ consciousness. We are aware of what is, we're pursuing spirituality, pursuing knowledge, but we're also aware of the human physical state. We're aware of our spirit, intellect, and body. So that to me is what somebody in Christ consciousness is. And again, just my opinion, but I believe everybody here is in a state of Christ consciousness. I believe most of the world is not, because we don't teach this in school, right? We don't teach anything about this in school.
Exactly. And if you see, Brian, like the purpose of existence for philanthropy investors is to raise the conscious level of help for humanity. It's just a simple purpose. And it's like showing to the people in the world that there is, you know, if you have a lot of good things in your life, let's see how we can channel that to some of the problems of the planet, so we can be in that conscious. That's my 2 cents.
I love it. It's a great perspective, brother. Matt, we'll finish up with you, brother.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback. You know, I was thinking that same thing that Ivan was talking about, and to, you know, really what it is I interpret it as generational paradigms, and it really brings me into the vibration scale. So if you look at the vibration scale, you know, as we go for, you know, enlightenment's at the highest, shame is at the lowest level, and I think we can label evil, negativity, the devil, anything that's on that lower vibration. And we know that, you know, whether it's individuals or collectively, we can manifest that. So as generations are feeling this low vibration and continuously manifesting, that's exactly what Ivan's talking about as far as being in that vicious cycle. And that's just such a gift, you know, and sometimes I ponder, like, you know, why at this point in my life did I, you know, start on this journey? I was ready for it, right? And you could talk to Josiah about different dimensions and all these different things and parallel lives and universes. But it just goes back to what vibration are people held in, whether it's individual or as society.
Well, I love what you're saying there too, because you're talking about high vibrations and low vibrations. Now, why does a low vibration have to be evil or bad? That's just a label. You know, why does depression have to be labeled as bad? It's just a low vibration. And that's more along the lines of how I think. And I think a long time ago, I had suggested to you guys, you know, my opinion of what's happening. And in Neville Goddard's book, he talks about God expressing in legions of forms, which is what we are. So I always go back to that initial principle of universal consciousness at some point deciding to express physically. And then boom, you have the stars, the suns, the planet. Energy moves into forward through conscious movement. And then you have us that have some level of that consciousness. And for the first time, God can feel physically. Now, if I was that entity, wouldn't I want to feel every possible combination of things possible? Billions and billions and different things. So good, bad, war, philanthropy, you know, there is no good or bad, right? It's just all the different vibrations. That's kind of how I see it. And I take other people's perspectives, like Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor, went through that whole thing, didn't label the Germans as bad, didn't label the whole thing as evil, and they slaughtered his family. Very highly aware person. It just is. He's just experiencing a subset of time. So, and obviously I've never, ever, ever come close to experiencing anything like that. So all I can do is take perspectives from all these different angles and form my own opinions, which is what we encourage here. So hopefully you guys get a lot of value out of it. I love these sessions when we dig deep into content, and I just love all the different points of view, and hopefully you guys do too. Like I said, next week we're having Peggy McCall in, so bring your questions. She is a OG gangster. I mean, she is a business. She's a money-making machine is what she would call herself. And everybody that knows her would call her that as well. She can show you how to take a book and produce like 16 revenue streams from it, no matter what vertical you're in. So next week should be super impactful. Make sure to bring your questions, bring your love, open up your hearts, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Everyone.
Right.
Bye, guys.
Be well.
Good afternoon.
See you, brother.
Bye.